Cavendish. The modern banana market mostly depends on the Cavendish banana, which became the world's dominant banana only in the 1950s, after a fungal disease wiped out its predecessor, the Gros Michel. Even though most people think of it as the normal banana, it's actually pretty unusual, because it doesn't have seeds and can't reproduce on its own, so farmers grow it by cloning. That makes it great for mass production, but also risky, because if something can kill one plant, it can kill them all. Cavendish bananas have a pretty consistent taste and texture. When they're green, they're firm and starchy. As they ripen and turn yellow, that starch turns into sugar, which makes them softer and sweeter. The flavor is mild and smooth, not as strong or complex as some other banana types. The Cavendish is actually under serious threat from a new strain of Panama disease called Tropical Race 4, which it's not resistant to, and there is a real possibility that within a few decades, a different variety will take over the market. Pisang Raja. Pisang Raja translates from Malay as king banana, and it's the preferred banana variety in much of Southeast Asia. The fruit is shorter and plumper than a Cavendish, with a thicker skin that turns yellow with a slight orange blush when fully ripe. Inside, the flesh is deep yellow, almost golden, and the flavor is noticeably richer than what most Western consumers are used to. It's sweeter, more aromatic, with a honey-like quality that makes the Cavendish taste a bit plain by comparison. The texture is also creamier and denser, closer to a ripe mango in consistency than the standard supermarket banana. Pisang Raja is the variety traditionally used in Indonesian and Malaysian banana fritters, known as goreng pisang, one of the most common street foods across the region. The natural sweetness and density of the flesh holds up to frying, caramelizing slightly without turning mushy. You can find these fritters at many market stalls and roadside carts throughout Indonesia. Even though it's very popular locally, it's not exported much because it bruises easily and has a shorter shelf life than the Cavendish. It's too delicate for long shipping chains that made the Cavendish commercially dominant. Gros Michel. The Gros Michel, whose name is French for Big Michael, was the world's #1 commercial banana from the mid-1800s until the 1950s. It was larger, thicker-skinned, and by most accounts, significantly tastier than the Cavendish. It had a richer, more complex sweetness, a creamier texture, and a stronger aroma. People who ate both often preferred it. The tough peel also made it easy to ship without getting damaged. The Fusarium fungus, or Panama disease, spread through the Gros Michel plantations before anyone truly understood monocultural risk, and because virtually all commercial Gros Michel plants were genetically identical clones, the disease quickly wiped them out. By the late 1950s, the Gros Michel was commercially extinct. Small quantities are still grown today in non-infected pockets of soil in Thailand and South America, where it continues to be grown by small-scale farmers who appreciate its historical importance and intense nectarous flavor. Blue Java. The Blue Java, also known as ice cream banana, comes from Southeast Asia and is a mix of two banana types, Musa acuminata and Musa balbisiana. It can handle cold better than most bananas, so it can grow in cooler places too. The blue part refers to the unripe fruit. Before it ripens, the skin of a Blue Java has a distinctive blue-green, almost silvery tint, caused by a natural wax coating. As it ripens, the skin transitions to a pale yellow. These bananas are known for their remarkably creamy texture, which gave them the ice cream nickname. The texture is so smooth and rich that people regularly compare it to melting ice cream or custard. The flesh is soft, almost whipped feeling, with a flavor often described as vanilla-like, lightly sweet, and floral. It almost tasted like a heavy dessert. The variety is native to Southeast Asia, possibly originating in the Philippines or Indonesia, and spread throughout the Pacific Islands, where it became a staple in Hawaiian and Filipino home cooking. It thrives in cooler climates better than most other banana varieties, tolerating temperatures that would stress a Cavendish. That cold tolerance made it popular in parts of the Pacific and even subtropical regions where tropical bananas struggle. It rarely appears in supermarkets outside specialty stores or tropical regions because its soft, delicate flesh makes it essentially impossible to ship commercially at scale. It often has to be eaten close to where it grows. Pink velvet banana. Pink velvet banana comes from the eastern Himalayas and the Assam region of India. The plant is pretty small for a banana tree, usually growing only about 4 to 7 feet tall. It's actually a wild-type banana, meaning it's much closer to the original undomesticated banana than the varieties bred for commercial consumption. The flavor is sweet and pleasant, but the eating experience is dominated by the seeds. You're essentially nibbling around the pit. Because of this, it's rarely eaten as a straightforward snack, in the way that you'd eat a Cavendish. This banana basically peels itself. When the fruit is ripe, the thick pink skin splits open and curls back, showing the white inside. This helps animals like birds and bats know it's ready to eat. Because of the hard seeds, most people grow it for its ornamental quality rather than for eating. In parts of India and Southeast Asia, the very young fruits are occasionally used in cooking, and the flowers are used in certain traditional preparations, but the plant's primary appeal is aesthetic. Red banana. Red bananas, sometimes called red Dhaka, are a distinct variety cultivated widely in parts of East Africa, South and Southeast Asia, and throughout the Americas. They're shorter and plumper than a Cavendish, with a wine red to maroon skin that remains that color all the way through ripeness. The flesh inside is cream to pale yellow, sometimes with a faint pinkish hue. The flavor is noticeably different from a standard yellow banana, sweeter with a distinct berry-like quality with a subtle hint of raspberry. The texture tends to be a bit denser and creamier. Many people who try red bananas for the first time are surprised by how different they actually taste. They're also more nutritious than regular yellow bananas. Red bananas have more vitamin C and beta-carotene, which are good for your immune system and your eyes. Red bananas are especially common in East African cuisine, where they appear frequently in cooked dishes alongside plantains and cooking bananas. In the Philippines, they're used in a popular dessert called turon, where the banana is wrapped in spring roll pastry with brown sugar and fried until caramelized. They're also eaten raw and make very good smoothies because of the deeper, more complex sweetness. They also take longer to ripen, so you usually have to wait a few extra days until the peel feels soft. In many places, they are seen as more of a special or premium fruit. Their thick skin helps protect them during transport, but they are still less common because they take longer to grow and need specific tropical conditions. Ladyfinger. The ladyfinger banana, also called the sugar banana, is a small type that comes from Malaysia and Indonesia. It's smaller than the Cavendish, usually only about 4 to 5 inches long, and has a thin, narrow shape. The peel is very thin and turns bright yellow when it's ripe, and the inside is light yellow with a smooth texture. Ladyfingers are exceptionally sweet, more intensely than a ripe Cavendish, with almost no starchiness even when slightly underripe. They have a syrupy sweetness and a slightly floral quality. The texture is firmer and less watery than the Cavendish. Because they're small, sweet, and have a thin peel, ladyfingers are frequently recommended as a child-friendly fruit. They're also great for fruit platters or for yogurt and cereal. It's not as common around the world as the Cavendish, since the peel is so thin that it gets damaged easily when shipped, and the plant itself is harder to grow because it needs a lot of humidity and stable tropical weather. But in places like Southeast Asia and Australia, you can find it pretty easily in local markets. Manzano. The Manzano banana or apple banana is short and chunky and tastes very different from the usual bananas you find in stores. The skin is pale yellow when ripe and turns fully black quite quickly. Unlike a Cavendish, a Manzano with a very dark or black skin isn't overripe. It's often at its sweetest and best. The interior flesh is firm, cream white, and slightly starchy even when the outside looks alarming. This variety is native to Central and South America. It's especially popular in Mexico, Central America, and parts of the Caribbean, and grows well in tropical highland regions where slightly cooler temperature favor its development. In Hawaii, Manzano is also widely grown and consumed. The flavor has a slight tang that can remind people of apples or even strawberries, and the firmer texture holds up well in cooking, and in parts of Central America, Manzanos are eaten fried or cooked in various preparations. The quick blackening of the skin has made it a hard sell in supermarkets, where consumers associate appearance with freshness, so the Manzano remains primarily a local and farmers market variety outside its native region. Plantain. Plantains are often mistaken for regular bananas, but they're actually a different type called cooking bananas. They're usually bigger, have thicker skin, and contain a lot more starch and less sugar than a regular banana. In many tropical places like West Africa, the Caribbean, and Central America, people use plantains more like a vegetable similar to potatoes or yams, and they're an important part of everyday meals. How a plantain tastes depends a lot on how ripe it is. When it's green, it's firm and very starchy, so it's great for frying into crispy chips or boiling and mashing into dishes like tostanes or fufu. As it ripens and turns yellow, then black, the starch slowly turns into sugar. It becomes softer and sweeter, and at that stage, people often slice and fry it until it gets golden and slightly caramelized, which goes really well with savory food. Plantains are a major food source around the world. They grow all year round and help feed over 70 million people in Africa alone. Most bananas grown globally are actually plantains. Because they usually need to be cooked when they're still starchy, they've become a big part of traditional cooking in many countries, showing up in everything from spicy stews to sweet desserts with coconut. In Uganda, a particular group of plantain cultivars called matok or matoke are so central to the national diet that the word itself means both plantain and food in Luganda. Plantains are believed to have originated in Southeast Asia and spread westward through trade routes, eventually reaching West Africa and then the Americas through colonial movement. Saba. The Saba banana is one of the most important bananas in the Philippines. It's very useful because you can eat it in different ways. When it's still green, people cook it like a vegetable. When it's ripe, it becomes sweet and can be eaten like a fruit. The plant itself is very strong and can handle bad weather, so farmers even use it to protect other crops like papaya during storms. Banana Q, one of the Philippines' most popular street foods, is simply Saba bananas coated in caramelized brown sugar and skewered on bamboo sticks. It's sold everywhere from school gates to market alleys and is a common Filipino afternoon snack. Turon wraps sliced Saba in spring roll wrappers with brown sugar and sometimes jackfruit, then fries the whole thing until the exterior is very crisp and the inside is molten and sweet. Beyond the Philippines, Saba is grown in parts of Southeast Asia and used in similar cooking applications. It's a workhorse banana built for the kitchen rather than for snacking, and Filipino cuisine has built an entire category of foods around it. Praying hands. Praying hands banana is one of the strangest looking bananas in the world. The bananas grow stuck together in pairs, kind of like two hands pressed together in prayer. It comes from Southeast Asia and is pretty rare. The fruit itself, once separated from its unusual cluster, is shorter and somewhat squared off, similar in profile to the Saba. The skin is thick and the flesh is dense and pale. In terms of flavor, praying hands is mild and lightly sweet, with a vanilla-like undertone that develops more prominently as the banana ripens fully. The texture is noticeably drier and less moist than a Cavendish, almost chalky when underripe, but smoothing out significantly as it ripens further. It's often cooked, baked, or dried. Dried praying hands banana slices are a traditional preparation in some Pacific Island communities. The unusual fusion of the fingers means that when you separate them and peel the fruit, you find a slightly flattened coin-shaped cross-section rather than the standard banana oval. Praying hands is grown primarily by specialty growers and home cultivators in tropical regions. It doesn't appear in mainstream commercial markets. Goldfinger. This variety was developed in 1988 by the Honduran Agricultural Research Foundation as part of an effort to breed a banana that could resist Panama disease and other common banana ailments. The goal was essentially to engineer a tough alternative to the Cavendish. This banana has 4 sets of chromosomes, which makes it strong, cold-tolerant, and resistant to the fungi that threatens regular bananas. The fruit is medium-large, similar in size to a Cavendish, with a golden yellow skin when ripe and a pleasant appearance. When slightly underripe, Goldfinger has an apple-like tartness reminiscent of the Manzano, bright and citrusy. As it ripens fully, that tartness gives way to a sweeter, more conventional banana flavor. It can be eaten at various stages of ripeness and behaves differently each time, which is a somewhat unusual characteristic. In cooking, Goldfinger handles heat well and can be fried, baked, or used in recipes that require firmer bananas. It's been tested commercially in parts of Europe, Australia, and the Americas, with mixed consumer reception. It can also be grown organically without lots of chemicals, making it popular for sustainable farms and home gardeners in subtropical areas. It's a hopeful banana for the future. Burrow. The Burrow banana is short, thick, and slightly squared at the edges, giving it a blocky, stubby look that sets it apart from the more elegant curves of other varieties. It's also known as the chunky banana or largo. Burrow bananas are grown extensively in Mexico and throughout Central America, and have a long history of cultivation in the region. They're also found in parts of Southeast Asia under different local names. In Mexico, they're a common market variety and used both for fresh eating and cooking. When it's fully ripe, the inside is soft and creamy, sometimes with a slightly firm center like a ripe apple. Unlike some bananas that get too sweet when cooked, this one keeps a nice balance because of its slight acidity, even when baked or caramelized. The thick skin and firmer flesh make burrows somewhat more durable than softer varieties, though they're still primarily a local and regional banana rather than an internationally traded one. Fe'i banana. The Fe'i banana grows upright rather than hanging downward. The fruit clusters point toward the sky instead of drooping like conventional banana bunches. They are native to Melanesia and the Pacific Islands, particularly Papua New Guinea, Tahiti, and the surrounding archipelagos. Genetic evidence suggests they descend from a different wild species than most cultivated bananas. This makes Fe'i a separate branch of the banana family tree. The skin is orange to red, sometimes deep scarlet, and the flesh inside ranges from yellow to vivid orange, the result of very high beta-carotene content. That orange flesh is nutritionally significant. Fe'i bananas in certain Pacific Island communities historically served as a key of dietary source of vitamin A, and researchers have identified areas where traditional Fe'i consumption correlated with lower rates of vitamin A deficiency compared to communities that shifted away from it. They are primarily cooking bananas. They're starchy, dense, and need to be boiled, roasted, or steamed before eating. In traditional Polynesian and Melanesian cooking, they were often prepared in earth ovens alongside other root vegetables and starchy staples. The taste when cooked is earthy and slightly sweet. The plant also has a bright purple sap that people used in the past as a dye for cloth and even for tattoos. Mysore. The Mysore banana is a popular type in southern India and Pakistan. People like it for its intense flavor and how well it grows. The fruits are small and thin, with very delicate skin that turns a bright golden color when ripe, and flesh that's notably soft, almost silky, and sweet with a rich complex flavor that carries a faint tartness at the end, distinguishing it from the flat sweetness of a Cavendish. The aroma is also more pronounced and floral than what most people associate with commercial bananas. Even though they look fragile, the plants themselves are tough and can grow huge bunches, sometimes so heavy they need support to hold them up. It's considered a premium variety in the Indian market and commands higher prices than common commercial bananas. The variety is widely used in religious offerings and festivals in South India, where specific banana varieties carry cultural and ritual significance beyond their edible qualities. Bananas in general are sacred in Hindu tradition, associated with specific deities and used in temple rituals, and the Mysore banana appears frequently in these contexts. The Mysore bruises easily and has a relatively short post-harvest life, which has kept it largely out of export markets. Like many of the best local fruit varieties around the world, its quality is partly a function of being eaten close to where it grows, at peak ripeness, rather than being picked green and shipped around the world. Rhino horn banana. The rhino horn banana is the longest banana in the world. Individual fruits can reach 60 centimeters, about 2 feet, in length, and the clusters curve dramatically, tapering to a slightly curved point. The comparison to a rhinoceros horn is immediately obvious when you see one. The variety originates in Africa, with Ethiopia considered its most likely place of origin, and it's cultivated across East and Central Africa. It belongs to the group of plantain-type bananas called French plantains, which are characterized by large size and high starch content. When unripe, the flesh is firm, starchy, and pale, softening and developing mild sweetness as it ripens. Fully ripe rhino horn bananas become yellow-skinned and can be eaten raw with a fairly standard plantain-type sweetness. Due to their big size, a single bunch of rhino horn bananas can be a substantial meal in itself. It's essentially unknown in most Western markets, growing primarily in home gardens and local agricultural settings in East Africa. You're unlikely to see one in a European or North American supermarket, because the infrastructure for commercializing and shipping something that size simply doesn't exist for it. The rhino horn banana belongs to a group of bananas that have a mix of wild and domesticated traits. Because of this, the plant can be a bit more rugged than typical bananas, handling tougher growing conditions like heat and heavy rain better than more delicate varieties.